Some of you may remember that 7 or 8 years ago, my daughter Claire lost her beloved stuffed animal, Lammy. She didn't realize Lammy was lost, but I did. She was at her dad's and then at sleepaway camp. I spent 2 weeks frantically searching for her beloved Lammy that she couldn't, she just couldn't live without. When she was little, like 5 or 6, and she would play that game MASH, where you list like 4 boys and the cars you want. She would list Lammy as one of the boys she would want to get married to, okay? So Lammy was big for her. I had Facebook posts. I reached out to friends whose spouses worked near the campground 3 hours away that we had been at. I drove to the parking lot where her dad and I met to hand off, thinking, surely Lammy must have fallen out. I called the hotel sobbing. And the manager was the most kind, compassionate person. And she's like, I will talk to every one of my staff. And then she called me back 3 days later. Nobody has found Lammy. So I was devastated. Come to find out, Lammy had stowed away in Claire's sleeping bag while we were camping and went to Camp Arrowhead with Claire. She was tickled pink that she had Lammy in one of her happy places, and I was just grateful that Lammy had been found. I think, we all often have these stories of something that beloved, something important to us that's been lost. For some of us, it could be our child's beloved blankie or favorite outfit, or maybe it was our own favorite jacket we left behind somewhere, right? For some of us, it's the literal child that we've lost, too, right? I have a time when Claire was about 2.5 that I was at a picking up a race packet for the Philly Half Marathon, and my parents and nieces were with me, and I went to go pick up my packet, leaving Claire with my parents, and Claire noticed Mommy was gone and went to find me, right? Many of us will also have those stories of when our tiny person has wandered away from us. Mary and Joseph knew that terror, Jesus' parents, right? There's this story in Luke's gospel where the Holy Family has traveled to Jerusalem for the pilgrimage of Passover. And on their way back to their home in Galilee, the parents, they're traveling with a crowd of people, family, friends, the whole town. They finally realize after a day that Jesus isn't with them. So they travel back to Jerusalem and search the whole city. And finally, after 3 days, they find him, right? Now, Jesus was in the temple, and he's like, surely you would have known I would have come here, right? But for his parents, they were frantically looking for him, and I have no doubt that his parents kept reminding Jesus of this story, right? Every other future pilgrimage. Now, don't you go wandering off without telling us, right? And so, at the heart of Luke's gospel, Jesus tells 3 parables of lost things. 2 of which we heard this morning, the lost sheep and the lost coin. And usually we focus in these parables on the finding, right, and the rejoicing. Because, if you've lost something precious, you know what it feels like, and maybe you've even called somebody or told all of Facebook, I have found Lammy, rejoice with me, right? But today I want to focus instead on what has been lost, on that feeling of being lost. And maybe you have your own story of feeling lost, right? Of literally being lost in a new place or a big city. Remember the days before we had Google Maps and Waze on our phone, right? And you've got the Rand McNally atlas, and you're like frantically, one partner's yelling at the other partner, "We're on Route 12!" And you're like, "There is no Route 12!" Right? We have those stories too. But I think we also know what it is to feel lost inside of us, right? To go away to college for that first time, to feel lost that you've lost your family and your friends, and now you're in this large place where you know no one and you're alone, right? Or, I remember the feeling of lostness after my first marriage ended and I moved out on my own. And just the loneliness that was there. And then there was even some loneliness within the joy of my second marriage because I had to move away from everything that I knew. And Glen was the only person that I knew in my new area, and I was alone, and I was lonely, even though I was very happy, right? We have sometimes in our lives, maybe for some of you it may be right now, that we experience this like deep ache of lost, this deep ache of loneliness. Our former Surgeon General, Vivek Murthy, in 2021, named this as the epidemic of loneliness. The epidemic of loneliness. Now, in his first term as Surgeon General, he was dealing with the epidemic of the opioid crisis, right? And also noticing how mental health has real impacts on our physical health, which makes sense, right? Our minds are contained within our bodies. Okay? But even within that, he was noticing this epidemic of loneliness, which is actually linked to as many adverse health outcomes as smoking up to 15 cigarettes a day. Right? Being lonely is as bad for your health as smoking almost a pack of cigarettes a day. Right? It affects our cardiovascular health. It affects dementia, stroke, anxiety, depression, premature death. Okay? Just feeling lost, just being alone. The Harvard School for Education did a study, a 4-year study. Now, they were approaching it from an educator's point of view and wanting to figure out how to help our children who certainly experience this, especially coming out of the pandemic, right? Our young people lost so much important socialization and those skills when they were in elementary and high school. But just thinking of adults, which age group for adults would you say experience loneliness, that they're frequently or always feeling alone? What age group? Teenagers? Yeah. Seniors? Yeah, empty nesters, right? I heard one more. All of those. Phil's closest. Actually, it's our 30 to 44-year-old age group, which isn't one you were named, right? Because you would figure, good Lord, they're the ones busy raising children, right? Or busy with careers, and certainly, are not alone. They've got lots of people around them, but almost 30% of that age group say that they feel frequently or always lonely. And that is followed up by our young adults, our 18 to 29-year-olds. They're the next cohort. And then it's the 45 to 60-year-olds, empty nesters, right? People in transition in their life. And then finally, surprisingly, seniors, right? Only about 10% of folks 65 or older experience feeling always or frequently alone. And as I look out here right now, most of you are sitting here, right? So you have your social connections, right? Especially our elders, right? Find community here. But for many of our younger generations, they're not, and they're feeling alone, and they're feeling lonely. And it's as bad for their health as smoking almost a pack of cigarettes a day. What do you think are the largest causes for loneliness? Social media, right? Technology. We'll say technology. That is the number one reason. Almost 3/4 of people say technology. What else? What else leads to a feeling of loneliness? Yeah, not making that time with friends, right? Remote work, right? Which is also kind of technology again. Mental health, right? That's kind of a never-ending loop there, right? You're feeling depressed, so you're not getting out more, which makes you feel isolated, which makes you feel more anxious and depressed, right? Insufficient time with family and friends, right? Because we're too busy, right? We're too busy. And then at the end of our busy day, how do we feel? Too tired, right? To make that phone call to your best friend that you love but haven't heard from for a few weeks, right? And you're like, I'll get to it tomorrow. I'm just going to watch my next episode on Netflix because that's all I have energy for today, right? I mean, can I get an amen? Amen. Right? Yeah, amen. And also living in a society, our American society, that highly prizes the individual, of being an individual, right? Who pulls themselves up by their bootstraps? A community? Psh, me, right? It's mine to do. If I need self-care, that's me to take care of. If I'm having an issue, it's mine to deal with, right? Almost 60% of people report that living in our individual-focused society is what makes them feel less connected, right? And of course, what were Facebook and Instagram, and if you remember, was the MySpace we're supposed to do, right? Make us feel more connected. In a society that prides ourselves on, the self-made individual or the rogue or the maverick, right? In a society that prides itself on division and disconnection, on busyness, on being tired as a badge of honor, right? A society that focuses on money and achievement and more, right? What we need is not that. What we need is not technology to save us from our disconnection. What we need is not politics or money or job. What we need is each other. What we need is each other. Okay? What we need is to be found. Because at some point, we all feel lost and we all feel alone. Okay? And in this morning's parables, Jesus lays no blame on that lost thing, right? On that lost sheep. He doesn't say if the shepherd paid more attention to every single sheep in his flock, he would not have lost the one, or it was the sheep's fault for, nibbling and nibbling and nibbling and finally going, oh, where am I, right? It's not the woman's fault for losing one of her 10 coins, right? Or the coin's fault for gravity rolling it off the table, right? Rolling under the couch. It's not anybody's fault, right? And often, though, with loneliness and feeling lost, we put it on ourselves, right? I should do more. I should go to church more because I know when I go, I feel good. But it's just nicer to lay in bed and nobody notices that I'm gone, right? We feel invisible. We feel not important. We feel not worthy. We feel that's our fault. Jesus tells us this morning, it's nobody's fault. But what Jesus does tell us this morning in these parables is that when we notice something that's precious to us is gone, we have to search like hell till we find it. That we are to be like the sheep owner, that we are to be like the woman, right? Searching and searching, lighting lamps, looking for what's missing. And so as we sit here on the start of a new church program year, we're going to be rolling out lots of new activities now that you're back from the summer, right? And we'll do, Thursday morning cafe and men's breakfast, and we'll do some holy hikes. We'll have the giving train. We'll be doing Sunday morning forums. We're going to try something new this year and have a potluck theme every month, right? So that we can all come together again, right? But what I want you to really be doing is looking around. Okay? Who are your people here that you used to sit with at coffee hour, or that you used to, participate in some church group long ago, or that your kids used to do Sunday school together, but they haven't been here in a while? Okay? Maybe it's a couple of weeks, maybe it's a couple of years. Okay? What Jesus tells us is that we are supposed to have the heart of God, and the heart of God searches for every lost one among us, which is a great feeling when we're the one feeling lost. Right? But sometimes we're in the role of finder. This morning, you all are in the role of finder. So I charge you with this over these next months, right? Invite somebody to join you. Reach out to somebody else at church that you haven't seen for a while, or just somebody you'd like to get to know better. Right? Give them a call, send them a text. If you need a directory, call Jen in the office or email her. She can mail you one or email you one, okay? But we are all to have the heart of God. And the great news is, right, when you find that lost one, God throws us a party. We throw us a party. We say, "Rejoice with me, for I have found what is lost." And there is great rejoicing in heaven.